Certainly, what Orthodoxy has to offer the world is the faith once and for all delivered to the saints. There's no change over the centuries of what Orthodoxy offers the world, which is the hope of eternal life and salvation, and the opportunity to know our God in the most intimate and profound and life-changing way. But I think apart from this, what Orthodoxy offers the world, and particularly the Western world, is a different approach to God, a different manner in which one comes to know Him. Orthodoxy is a part of, we might say, the Eastern Hemisphere. Orthodoxy reflects an approach that is uniquely in the East, and it has in some ways more in common with other Eastern religions than it necessarily does with Western Christian expression of the Christian faith. And what do I mean by that? Let's take the word theory and the word practice. In the West, where we live, particularly after the period of the Enlightenment and the Renaissance, man's reasoning ability has been elevated to such an extent that those who are our true priests and our prophets and our miracle workers today are the scientists, are those who study and those who acquire empirical knowledge. And so we take a word like theory, and it's a common understanding amongst those in the West that theory means you have a really good idea. You have a theory about something. You think it's right. You're not positive, but you have a pretty good hunch it's right. And now you have to go see if it works or not, if it's practical or not. But Eastern Orthodox Christianity approaches these two words classically in a different manner, in a different order. The word theory in Greek, theoria, means a vision of God. Traditionally, one comes to theoria, or a vision of God, not by thinking about Him at all. God is not an idea that we can grasp with our minds. And if He was, then certainly what we have come up with is not God. But theoria, or the vision of God, is something that comes from God Himself, that God reveals Himself. The word God, even in Greek, theos, literally comes from the word meaning, the root meaning to have a vision, to He who appears, who reveals Himself. So theoria, for us as Orthodox Christians, comes after praxis. We practice the faith, and that leads us to a vision of God. And this is how Orthodoxy has maintained itself throughout the centuries. Its resiliency is precisely because we never stop practicing that which the Church gives us to do, and through doing these things, God continues to reveal Himself to us, which changes us. So if we're going to say what Orthodoxy has to offer to the world, it's what Christ Himself said. If you love me, you'll obey my commandments. And I and my Father will come to you, and we will reveal ourselves to you. He who loves me will keep my word, and I and my Father will come to him and make our home within him. So Orthodoxy gives us those commandments, that word in which we are to adhere to. And it's this approach to God that is first and foremost from the heart and from the will. We're not going to understand everything. We're not going to understand everything in our lives. We're not going to understand everything in the Church. All the fundamental beliefs that we have as Orthodox Christians are paradoxes. That God is one and three at the same time. That Jesus Christ is fully God and fully man, and so forth. But rather, by practicing the faith, God enlightens us to know the truth. You find throughout America people that kind of define what church they go to by the kind of welcome that they receive in most churches of different Christian denominations. They make a big point of how welcoming They can be. And you might come to our church on a Sunday, and not only are there going to be many things that are so different for the non-Orthodox Christian about our approach, our style of worship, with the use of the various elements of the incense and the iconography and the ritual, the richness of the ritual, the vestments, the chant, all of this. But then you're going to go into the coffee hour downstairs, and someone might come up to you, and the first question they're going to ask you is not necessarily what's your name, or why is it that you're here with us this morning? It might be something like, are you Greek? And if you say, no, I'm not Greek, then the answer you'll get is, that's okay. And it's understandable how a person who is not of an Orthodox background, or not of one of the traditional, say, nationalities, ethnic backgrounds that make up most of the Orthodox world, could find the Orthodox Church less than welcoming. And what I would say to that person is, keep telling us. Keep reminding us and letting us know that that's how we're acting, because I don't think we really want to be that way. Actually, we know we shouldn't be that way. If we are the Church of Christ, our doors must be open to everyone and must be welcoming everyone. At the same time, I do want to ask the Enquirer to not allow themselves to draw conclusions right away. Don't judge the Orthodox book by its ethnic cover, but rather allow yourself, as certain converts have done, to take the time to get to know the people, to get to know their history, to understand that Orthodoxy is not just an academic exercise in theology, but it's rather a lived experience of God, passed on and actually infused within the various ethnicities and races of the world. And so you have a unique expression of Orthodoxy as the faith has spread to each region of the world, and the people there have had their culture, in a sense, baptized by the Church and given everything within that culture a unique meaning and reference to Christ. And so when you come to an Orthodox church in America, you're coming into a church where the people are holding on to many of these customs and even language and the food that they eat and all of these things that may seem un-American in some way, although that's not necessarily the case. But what they really do is they hold on to that deeper experience of how God has joined himself through his church and in his church to their ancestry, to their heritage. And that's why they cling to it so closely.